Let's be real for a sec. I'm gonna hit you with a brutal, uncomfortable truth about modern intimacy that will expose exactly why your relationships might feel emotionally starved right now, even if they look picture perfect on paper. We are breaking down some intense psychology today, pulling from the school of life to explain why bad sex doesn't just disappoint your physical body, it slowly, agonizingly disconnects your emotions. Here is the plot twist. Most people aren't actually addicted to sex, they are addicted to feeling wanted. We desperately seek validation in the dark because we completely lack real emotional safety in the light.
Look at this quote right here. You can read Tolstoy together and still feel emotionally untouched. There is this massive cultural delusion that intellectual alignment automatically creates emotional safety. You think because you both read the same books, debate modern politics, and curate the exact same Spotify playlists, you're soulmates? No cap. You can do all of that and still lie awake at 2 a.m. staring at the ceiling, feeling entirely, fundamentally alone next to someone. We trick ourselves into thinking that if our brains match, our bodies will just figure it out. But here is the science. Your brain treats real intimacy like emotional Wi-Fi. You cannot connect to that network just because you share the same IQ bracket. And this disconnect, it has deep historical roots. High-minded people can be especially perturbed and have been since the dialogues of Plato and the sermons of St. Paul. I mean, high-key, intellectuals have had main character energy for centuries, desperately pretending their physical bodies don't exist. Since Plato, there has been this desperate attempt to elevate the mind and pretend our base urges are just beneath us. It's a really convenient philosophy, isn't it? Convince everyone that true love is strictly about matching worldviews so you can entirely dodge the messy, raw vulnerability of the flesh. It's a shield. Which brings us to section 1, the high-minded delusion, why your dating checklist is a massive red flag. When we meet someone new, our anxious brains start rapid firing. Are they tall? Do they earn a good living? Do they read the right poetry? We build this absolutely delusional checklist as a coping mechanism. Why? Because we are terrified. We use it to avoid the terrifying vulnerability of pure physical connection, low-key ignoring the one raw, uncomfortable reality that actually dictates if the relationship survives. How good is the sex? We prioritize the superficial stuff because it feels safe, but relying entirely on paper compatibility while ignoring physical chemistry, that is literally like eating junk food for loneliness. It might distract you for an hour, but ultimately you are going to wake up starving. All right, let's move to section 2. We are still animals. Stop acting like a floating brain. We are never more out of touch with reality than when we refuse to honor our physical needs. Wake up. You are not a floating brain doing math equations in the sky. You eat, you breathe, and you deeply need physical intimacy just to survive yourself. This isn't just about chasing cheap dopamine. Physical connection is literally mandatory to feel close and welcomed by another human. It is how we feel acceptable to ourselves when we look in the mirror. And here is the neuroscience. For a chronically overthinking, anxious mind, touch is the ultimate pressure release valve. Good sex regulates your nervous system instead of overstimulating it. It shuts off the brain rot. It quiets the noise. It is emotional oxygen. That leads us directly into section 3, the benchmark of good sex. Lust is varied. Connection is electric. If you want to stop feeling lonely inside your own relationship, you have to understand this. Lust is fireworks. It explodes, looks pretty, and then leaves the sky pitch black. Connection is electricity. It keeps the lights on. The brutal reality is that a lot of intimacy falls into these 3 buckets on the screen: ecstatic, passable, or very forgettable. Picture this scene, the awkward emotional distance after casual sex. The room is dead quiet. You're lying next to each other, the cold blue glow of a phone illuminating half their face, and your internal monologue is just screaming. Was that intimacy or just distraction? Why am I down bad and still feeling completely empty right now? That is the absolute tragedy of the passable. You absolutely must experience superlative connective intimacy at least once in your life, just so you have a benchmark of what emotional safety in the dark actually feels like. Let's go deeper down the rabbit hole. Section 4. The shame of secret kinks, sublimating trauma in the dark. This is where it gets highly specific. Look at these elements: the blindfold, the cashmere jumper, the stripy socks, the quiet tension in the library stacks. True, ecstatic connection happens when 2 people's deeply specific, private fantasies actually align. We're talking about compatible psychological realities and childhood wounds generating a raw, unvarnished erotic current. This isn't just about physical acts. It is about deep emotional bonding. It's about letting the most hidden, vulnerable, maybe even cringe parts of your psychology be seen and fully validated by someone else. When two people stop lying to themselves out of shame, that is what actually fuels passion. I need you to pause and really look at this question. Did two people want it equally? Think about your own experiences for a second. Can intimacy without deep emotional connection and equal, fierce desire ever actually feel fulfilling? When a relationship explodes, we always blame miscommunication or different values to figure out why. But sometimes the uncomfortable truth is just staring us in the face. We have to look squarely at the physical connection itself and ask honestly, did both people want this fiercely and equally? Which brings us to the slow motion car crash that is Section 5. Why nice relationships fail. The tragedy of being polite. This right here is where the script flips for so many people. Look at this timeline. Year 1, you bond over modern art and canoeing. Everything is aesthetic, perfect. Year 3, you start hiding your private desires out of intense internalized shame. You want to be a very nice partner. You're polite. And that is a fatal error. Being unfailingly polite destroys emotional safety because being polite means hiding who you really are. You become roommates who occasionally kiss. Then, year 5, you're calling the expensive divorce lawyers. Believing that your shared hobbies are more important than raw, vulnerable sexual communication, that delusion lives rent-free in our culture, and it quietly destroys a massive percentage of relationships. We have finally arrived at Section 6, the uncomfortable truth. Stop suppressing the body. Here is the kicker. True intelligence is properly letting our baser, blunter, and more compelling urges have their way. The older we get, the more we have to admit what our bodies already know. What we constantly label as high-minded cleverness, dodging physical vulnerability by hiding in intellectual safety, is literally just fear. You are terrified to let someone see the unpolished you. True intelligence isn't about how many books you read. It is unapologetically owning your rawest physical connection. Because maybe good sex was never just physical. Maybe it was the ultimate proof of emotional safety. So I'll leave you with this. Are you actually being intelligent in your relationships, or are you just hiding behind a book? Let that sink in. Thanks for exploring this breakdown with me. I'll catch you on the next explainer.